Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the what's next on Luis Alberto Lopez, the reigning IBF featherweight champion of the world at 126 pounds, following his convincing 12-round unanimous decision victory over Joet Gonzalez in a hard-fought competitive bout. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel up here. So this fight for Luis Alberto Lopez against Joet Gonzalez was about what I expected. I thought it'd be more competitive. I just thought he was going to get a deserving decision. And it was that. Gonzalez fought hard, but it was kind of one punch at a time. And Lopez's style is just the kind of style that is meant to throw you off. It's you know, not a prototypical style. He kind of jumps in and throws combinations and stuff, and it really, you know, is a complicated style to deal with. And Gonzalez, his best answer was pretty much one punch at a time. Now, he was landing good shots, he just couldn't get anything rolling because Lopez's movement. And you know, I think that's what cost him at the end of the day. It wasn't a blowout. He fought hard, but Lopez was just too much. So Lopez, the convincing win. You know, overall right now, I got him #1 at featherweight, and he's rolling, you know, after his win over Michael Conlan. So the big question now is what's next for Luis Alberto Lopez. So I'm going to go through some options in the top 10, but I really believe the IBF is probably going to order him to make a mandatory defense against his #1 contender, Raya Abe. The guy is #1. He defeated former champion, former 2-division champion Kiko Martinez earlier this year, and that's how he got the #1 status. And now he's going to be rolling into, you know, he was allowed, Lopez was allowed to make 2 optional defenses because he defeated Josh Warrington back in December, and he was the mandatory. And since then, he's been allowed to fight Michael Conlan and Joet Gonzalez, you know, in optional defenses. So I really believe the IBF is going to order a mandatory title defense for Lopez next, but I could be wrong. You know, I mean, they might allow something else. There's also the option of Naoya Inoue. If Inoue defeats Marlon Tapales when they fight, likely later this year, Inoue's probably gonna, you know, there's a chance that Inoue could move up if he defeats Tapales for the undisputed title at 122. There's a chance he moves up to 126, and Lopez has been mentioned as a possible opponent. But I don't think that's going to happen for Lopez in his next fight. I just see him making a mandatory to try to get ready for a fight like that against Inoue. That's what I think is going to happen next. But again, we can run through the top 10 because the IBF has not made that distinction yet, and see what else is a possibility if mandatory doesn't happen. So you got #2, or you know, you got Lee Wood, the WBA champion. He's fighting Josh Warrington in October. One, it's a tough fight to make because Wood is with Matchroom. So if Wood beats Warrington, he's likely giving up his WBA title and either moving up in weight, or he's going to go after another belt. I could see him and Lopez being interested in fighting each other because they both would have wins over Warrington and both would have knockout wins over Michael Conlan. So these two guys are kind of circling each other, but the promotion has to get the fight done. Now, would the WBA be okay with Wood putting off another mandatory defense to face off against, to face a unification bout against against Lopez? I think they might. I think they might pay off the mandatory that's due, the mandatory challenger, and allow that fight to go down. So I do believe that that one is possible, depending on what the WBA decides. Or Lopez might just say, hey, I'll fight Lee Wood no matter what, you know. But again, there's the mandatory situation for Lopez as well. So we got to see what happens there. You got Mauricio Lara. I don't see this one because I think Lara is a serious threat to Lopez. Even though it's an all-Mexican showdown, he's a threat to Lopez, and he's also with a different promotion. And I don't think Top Rank's going to want to take a risk on a guy who's coming off a loss and is a serious threat to a guy that they could be lining up for Inoue in the future. So I'm not seeing that. Or a unification with Ramirez, you know, which we'll get to in a minute. Then you got Brandon Figueroa, the former 122-pound champion and the current WBC interim champion. I'm not seeing this one either because Figueroa is with the PBC. He's lined up to fight for the WBC title, and I just don't see the two sides getting together, even though it'd be a good fight. You got Ray Vargas. Vargas is a WBC champion. I don't see unification here because Vargas is likely going to have to fight Figueroa next, and he's also with the PBC, so not seeing that. Josh Warrington, which would be a rematch. Well, I do believe that if Warrington were to were to beat Lee Wood, I do think there's a chance that Warrington says, hey, I'd like to unify belts against Lopez. And I think the IBF, because Warrington was a two-time IBF champion, and the WBA might forego mandatories and allow a unification bout here, maybe. So, just got to wait to see what they decide to do and what's the outcome of Lee Wood and Josh Warrington. Then there's a possible unification against Robeisy Ramirez. I do think this is possible, but Robeisy Ramirez is returning in November. He's staying busy against another low-level type fighter. And then after that, he's likely going to have to make a mandatory himself because he's made 2 optional defenses since he captured the vacant title by defeating Isaac Dogbe back in April. So, and I think both these guys want to fight each other, and they also want to be options for Inoue next year if Inoue decides to move up. So, I'm not seeing Ramirez next for Lopez, but it is possible if the mandatory situation doesn't, if they can work out with their mandatories a deal so Ramirez, so a unification can be made, then I think it's possible. A rematch with Isaac Dogbe, I don't see it. Lopez never fought Isaac Dogbe, I'm sorry. I was talking about Ramirez. So Lopez and Dogbe, not seeing it, even though they're both with the same promotion. It could happen though, simply because Lopez has they're both with Top Rank, and Dogbe didn't look bad against Robeisy Ramirez. He looked solid. He just didn't pull out the victory. So that I could see that fight happening, but overall I don't think it's going to happen. But I definitely could see Dogbe and Lopez happening. That there is a possibility, again, if no mandatory situation for Lopez is there. A rematch with Joet Gonzalez, I mean, it was a good fight. I don't think it mandated a rematch. Yes, the scores were wider than they should have been, but not to the point where it was, it definitely wasn't close enough to where you could say Gonzalez got robbed. So I don't think a rematch is in order and needs to happen. Lopez won convincingly. Then you have a Michael Conlan, a rematch there, and again, he knocked out Michael Conlan clean. No need for a rematch. So overall, what do I think Luis Alberto Lopez is going to have to do next? I really believe he's going to have to make a mandatory defense in his next bout, and likely going to be against Raya Abe. If that doesn't happen, I do think there's potential for unifications. I think Robeisy Ramirez is a very live option, and I do believe the winner of Lee Wood and Josh Warrington could happen because, again, a rematch with Josh Warrington, if he beats Lee Wood, Warrington might want that. The IBF and the WBA might okay unification, and the same thing for Lee Wood because it wouldn't be a rematch between Lopez and Wood, but the winner, Lee Wood and Lopez, would have done the same thing against the same opponents. They both would have decision victories, because I think Wood and Warrington's going to a decision. They would both have victories over Josh Warrington, and they both also have knockout wins over Michael Conlan. So I do believe Luis Alberto Lopez has an opportunity here to do something like that. But at the end of the day, I do believe it's going to be a mandatory defense against Raya Abe, his #1 contender. So we'll see what happens, but that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on the reigning IBF featherweight champion of the world at 126 pounds, Luis Alberto Lopez. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.